challenges facing organizations in transforming their HSE culture, and how can leaders overcome these obstacles?
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you everybody for being here. This is a very full house, so hopefully you will come up with something beneficial today. To my opinion, to my knowledge, that transforming a culture is a complex process. It's not an easy process that we can do over a day and night. It requires commitment, systematic processes, and behavioral changes, and so on and so forth. And I think one of the challenges that we face within the workplace is consulting the workforce. Leaders sometimes feel that if they consult the workforce, the frontline workers, they will be perhaps labeled unaware of their processes or unaware of their job. When in fact they did not know everything. The frontline worker has the key. The frontline worker has the key to many of the let's say aspects of change in the workplace. And I have a local example from Saudi Arabia where I have experienced it firsthand. One manufacturing company had their conveyor system shut down, and the engineers gathered around to figure out what the problem was and what kind of solution that they can propose. They came up with solutions. You know how engineers act, they're always technical, so on and so forth. They like the numbers. I'm not an engineer, so I'm picking on engineers here. They figured out that within 1 week, they can solve the problem, and it would cost them about 50,000 riyals. So they gathered with the general manager, the rounded table, and everyone, the decision makers are there. And then suddenly, there was one courageous frontline worker who knocked the door and came up and said, I have a solution. One of the engineers, unfortunately, laughed it out, said, we couldn't come up with a quick solution, so how do you think you can come up with one? So the frontline worker suggested the idea. The general manager gave him the benefit of the doubt, allowed him to implement the change, and then they saw a huge difference within 2 days. Within 2 days, the conveyor system started working again, and it only cost the company 3,000 riyal, which is almost $1,000. So from 50,000 to very simple solution from the frontline workers, through consulting them, giving them the ability, the trust to decide and change. Okay, that drove the change to be quicker. I mean, whether it was efficient or not, that's another story. However, the operation started working again within 2 days. And organizations also sometimes often rely on audits, checklists, inspections, and so on, and reporting numbers to transform their safety culture. So one question that I would pose to any senior leader, for example, does lack of incident reports mean that you have a good culture? Or does increased reporting mean that you have a good system? If people report 30 near misses this month, does that mean you have a strong system? Okay, if that makes your system good, then what do you say about not reporting near misses? Now you have zero near misses. Thank you.
I really love that example because I think before the session we've also talked about the importance of having psychological safety in the workplace and how that can basically empower your employees to speak up and not be afraid to say when something is wrong or if they have an idea to improve processes. Mr. Thomas, I believe you have another example, maybe like on the opposite end of that spectrum of that same subject.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, to the question, the original question, how do leaders change culture or transform culture? What we often see is that all leaders or most leaders are well intended to change culture, establish an effective culture in their organization.